There we go. Now you should be able to hear me now. Let me know for sure that you can hear me now. Test one, two, three. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, it looks like we've got the sound figured out too. I tell you what, man, I'm going to have to rethink the software package that I'm using here. So this one is called EV Mux, and it has really been giving me fits. So we may have to rethink this. Anyway, let's start all over. Because this is Shark Scrapper Live, where we're talking about precious metals and industrial metals and safety. And thank God we're not talking about how to do live streams. It's great to be here. And hopefully we can get through the rest of this um, without any more technical issues. So let's get right into. I tell you what, everybody, I want to thank you all for sticking out here. I got Scrapping Irish and Roger at CU Scrapping and E-Waste Jill, Richard Hulbert's with us, J.R. Cat, My Florida Life, Levin is here, Electronic Scrappers here. Uh, who's this? Stalker Rob 20 is in the house stalking us, I guess. Um, and let's see, anybody else that I missed here? I think I got everybody. Anyway, I appreciate y'all hanging in there. And while I got this, while I worked on this technical difficulty going on, very, very weird. Okay, let's get right to it. Silver. We're going to get over here and talk about silver. Got to do that button. I got to do that button. And here we are, silver. So we're looking at the AppMex website. And of course, as I always say, I am not sponsored by AppMex. And if they watch the beginning of this live stream, they never will sponsor me. But anyway, AppMex is just one of the sites that I have frequently used to buy and sell my physical gold and silver, which is the only way that I suggest people keep gold and silver. And there's very good reasons to keep gold and silver in your portfolio. But just make sure it's physical gold and silver that you're holding on to, because the paper stuff, well, it isn't worth the paper it's printed on. All right, so silver is at 41.27. That's US dollars per ounce. We're looking at the 1 week chart. And, we really don't have a whole lot going on. I mean, we had a little bit of a climb early in the week, and now it's kind of just been hanging out here in this low 40s territory. If we take a look at the month, we see that we had this early plateau going on. We climbed up, and now we're in this plateau here. And that's a good thing. We like to see silver going up. Let's go take a look at the 1 year chart here. We're up 43.75%, which is really nice. We can, click the right button there, dummy. So we can see we had a nice climb here for silver. We've had a bit of gyrations going on, but that's normal. Nothing terribly unusual there. I tell you, but you sort of say to yourself, okay, so should I be thinking about buying silver right now? Well, what some people do is they look at the gold to silver ratio. So let's go down here, gold to silver ratio, 1 week. You see that it started the week up here at 86. It dropped down here down to 85.18, and here we are right now at 87.58. So basically that means it would take you 87 and a half-ish ounces of silver to get an ounce of gold. If we open this up just a little bit more here, let's go to the 1 year. And here we can see that we had a gold to silver ratio that was exceeding 100, right? And so you could have traded 1 ounce of gold to get 108 or so ounces of silver. And then when it came down here to this 85-ish level, you could have taken 85 of those 100 ounces and got yourself an ounce of gold, banking on the gold to silver ratio climbing again and getting, being able to take advantage of that trade. But not so fast, monkey breath. Take a look at this. Let's go out to the entire chart. This is going back to the mid 90s. We're going to look at 100. Here's 100, and here's the number of times that the gold to silver ratio went over 100, and it isn't that often. More likely what you're looking at is a gold to silver ratio that's kind of in here somewhere, and that's in the 90-ish range. So right now is not exactly the best time to be buying silver in anticipation of trading it for gold at some point in the future, because we're kind of on the high end of the gold to silver ratio. You can see we have had some pretty good lows for the gold to silver ratio down in the a little higher than 40s. And the other thing that I'll bring your attention to is look at this period here where it climbed and spiked. Then it dropped off again and climbed, and then we have this little spike. So the question is, are we in another one of those drop-offs? Are we going to repeat this drop here? Maybe not as far, but do we have an opportunity for the gold to silver ratio to fall to the point where it might be good to wait before you make that trade? So I don't trade on the gold to silver ratio. It's just not something that I use. There are a lot of people out there that do use it. I just when silver is in the 20s and 30s, I was buying a lot of silver. I haven't been buying for a while. And we're gonna, maybe for me, this is a point where I'm deciding when I'm going to sell my silver. If you are going to buy some silver, AppMex is a perfectly acceptable place to do it. They've got, lots of product that you can choose from. One of the products that I happen to like a lot is here. Let's do this. So one of the products that I like a lot are the Sunshine Mint products, that usually bars, but I have bought rounds as well. And I usually buy the 1 ounce rounds or the 5 to 10 ounce bars. Those are pretty manageable sizes, could be easily bartered. Most of the coin shops that I deal with or pawn shops are fine with these sizes. And what I like about the Sunshine Mint, and I'm going to use the graphic off of AppMex because the last time I tried to show this, it didn't come across as well as I wanted it to. It was a little bit blurry. But here's on the AppMex, here's what the Sunshine Mint 5 ounce bar looks like. And when you flip it on the back side, you've got this thing here, which is their mint mark. And then they have this little device that you can hold up to that mint mark. And all of this gobbledygook that you see here then spells out the word valid. And that gives you some pretty good assurance that this is, in fact, a proper Sunshine Mint bar. Could it be counterfeited? Maybe. Would it be worth somebody's effort to try to figure out how to counterfeit this for silver? I doubt it. But hey, that's just, Sunshine Mint is just one of the mints that I have. That I have bought and that I have in my inventory. There's lots of good mints out there. Remember, if you're buying any of the coins that are like the Silver Eagle or the Maple Leafs, you are paying a premium on those that you're hoping someone will return the premium to you at some point later on. If you buy from a reputable mint, and Apmex is now their own mint, they're making their own product, but you can get bullion bars and rounds for a lower premium. So you always want to shop that premium and make sure that you're getting your money's worth and not paying a huge premium to do that. All right. Well, let's see what folks have had to say about silver while we have been talking about silver. So Roger appears to like the price. Richard is saying, let's see, Shark, I have a jar with about 16 grams of gold sitting on my shelf working on a batch that should yield another 20 grams. If we're talking about silver, Richard, we're not talking about gold right now. Come on, man. JR Cat is saying to buy now, only on the cheap. Yeah, and I know JR Cat is big into the junk silver, which is another way to go if you want to, that's another way to get silver that's not as expensive as getting like the 999s. Richard is saying, lots of people saying buy now. I say too late. Should have been. Yeah, I think that's one of those things where a lot of people it's like when was the best time to buy? Well, anything. Well, it was a while ago, I guess, right? When was the best time to buy a house? Well, 10, 20 years ago. When was the best time to buy silver? Well, as we saw in the trading economics chart, when silver was, way back here. So, hey, speaking of the trading economics chart, we haven't taken a look at that yet. So silver climbed towards 41 ounce on Friday, holding its strongest level since 2011 as failing real yields and a softer dollar after weaker than expected U.S. jobs data reopened the case for multiple Fed cuts with lower opportunity cost. This is important. Here, I want to highlight this. Let's go right here. This statement about the lower opportunity costs on non-yielding metals. So what are they saying here? What they're saying is if you're an investor and the interest rates are high, well, you have a number of places that you can put your money in, in treasuries, in stocks, in bonds. Hell, you put it in a bank for interest, and you could be making money, interest, the money from the interest. Whereas if you're holding silver and gold, it doesn't pay interest. It's just sitting there collecting dust. And what you're hoping is that the price rises at some point in the future so that you can then sell it and make money. And what investors are always doing is they're always asking the question, if I buy a non-yielding product right now, silver or gold, how long is it going to take me to get the money back compared to if I had just put that money in a bank account somewhere, or a high yielding interest vehicle of some sort? So those are the kind of decisions that the big investors will make. And there's nothing wrong with all of us thinking that way as well. In fact, we're going to talk about that later on in the stream when we take a look at the communication company stocks that were recently updated by Value Line, because there may be something there for you to think about. The other thing that they're saying here is that the macroeconomic impulse met tight physical demand from solar, electric vehicles, electronics, while supply remains constrained because most silver is a byproduct of base metal mines, and new primary output responds slowly, leaving projections to point to large structural deficit in 2025. And then on the industrial side, China's solar cell exports surged more than 70% in the first half of the year, led by shipments to India, which further supports the near term physical offtake. So that's also really important for us to understand. Yeah, none of us are, we're not, in the Chinese solar market. We're not in the Indian market. But when China uses a lot of silver to make solar cells that a lot of people in India, and there's a lot of people in India, are buying those cells, that means that there's more demand on silver as the industrial metal, and that can help to raise prices for us as well. All this is good for us as scrappers. We don't get a huge amount of material that is silver bearing, but when we see these kind of signals in silver, then there's also these kind of signals in gold, most likely. So this is all good for us. Plus, there are some opportunities for us to get silver and make those investments. So, all in all, this is good for us. And yeah, Richard brings up the good point here, where he says silver from e-waste is not normally cost effective, but he saved a lot of silver bearing material and may need to get it processed. And that's one of the things. It's like, unlike gold, where where you can have a pretty good, as Scrapping Irish figured out, he probably paid way too much for a bunch of Irish sucker sticks, otherwise known as RAM, a while back. But because it took him a while to get it processed, he's been hanging on to it. He didn't turn it right away. That's now worth enough that it was okay. He's still going to make money on it. And so we may be getting to that point with silver. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look. What are they talking about for the forecast for silver? And we're going to go over here to this part of the chart. And well, that's not terribly exciting, to be quite honest with you, getting up to 45. If we get over 45, I may think about selling some of my silver, but I'm not terribly excited about silver only getting up to 45 here in the next year. I really would have liked to have seen a bit more. All right. Well, that's okay, though. I mean, it's still better than not rising, even if it's only rising a little bit. So let's see. Did we have any other comments or other folks join us? Anfield's join us. Anfield's great to have you here. JR Cat is saying the people who are saying that you should buy are the ones who are selling. Oh man, yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see who else joined us. I thought we had somebody. Ed Weber joined us. Ed, great to have you here. And Jill, I think I said hello, Jill. I know you were here while we were still trying to get this thing running. Mike Smetdown's in the house too. I don't think I said hi to Mike yet. All righty. So our safety issue of the week is again brought to us by eWaste Mike, and I'm just going to throw him right underneath the bus without any concern, because why not? Some of you may have seen Mike's email during the week where he hurt himself again. Only this time it was a lifting injury. So if I understood his discussion correctly, he was at the top of the object on a stairwell. There were some folks below him on the stairwell, and as he was pulling, they were pushing. He twisted wrong or something like that, and pulled muscle in his back or his side. And we all know how painful that can be, especially as we get older. Those things take a lot longer to work those kinks out. So that brings us to the lifting safety discussion. And I was doing a bit of looking around, and I was reminded that it's not just the question of your posture when you're lifting. That's what a lot of people think of when you say lifting safety. But one of there's a whole dynamic around lifting that we need to pay attention to. So um, the UNC Environmental Health and Safety page has a pretty good discussion, and I found this. I thought this was a good way to talk about it. First is the preparation for the lift. All right, so plan out your lift. Right, I mean, how awkward, how heavy, where is it going to go? Is there stuff in the way? How are you going to lift it? And just sort of plan through that whole process. Now, a lot of times we kind of do this without consciously saying that you're planning it out. For lighter loads, things that are 30-ish pounds or less, maybe even 40 pounds or less, if you're in good shape, you don't really think about it that much. But if you're in the 40 plus pounds, you really want to think through your lift plan. And of course, you never want to lift anything over 50 pounds by yourself. But I know we do it all the time. So they say that 50 pounds, more than 50 pounds, should be a two-person lift. But I know most of you out there are lifting stuff that's 50 pounds by yourself. All the more reason why you need to really plan that lift. And when we're talking about planning that lift, look at the load you're lifting. Are there handhelds to make it easier to lift it? Where are you going to put your hands when you lift it? Are you wearing gloves, not wearing gloves? Do your gloves give you better traction on the object, or are they slippy? Are your hands sweaty that you could lose grip on the object? Are there sharp edges on the object so that when you lift it, you might end up cutting yourself from the weight on the sharp objects? Once you've lifted it up, do you have to turn in order to carry it to where you're going to carry it? If so, then you want to turn with your hips and feet and not your back. So your hips and feet, start to turn, and your body follows, as opposed to twisting from your back first. Is there a clear path, or do you have to worry about tripping over stuff? And then when you're going to put it down, where is it going down? Are you setting it on a table or workbench, or do you have to kneel back down again to set it on the ground? And when you do put it down, how are you going to make sure your fingers aren't going to get crushed or in the way? Which is something that I did not do a very good job of. Hence the reason why I'm wearing a Band-Aid. The other thing that you want to think about that is not discussed here is plan for the failure. So if you are lifting something heavy, what's going to happen if you lose your balance or it slips out of your hand? If you're lifting something with a forklift or an engine hoist and the lifting strap fails, well, you never want to stand underneath a load. That was a big, important safety thing that we used to reiterate when I was in the Navy. Never stand under a load. So you want to think through what are the possible failure mechanisms and how can I mitigate those. Now, when it is time to lift, make sure that you are thinking this through using proper lifting technique and body metrics, and if at all possible, use as much mechanical help as you can. I have the Genie lift that I like to use when I'm around my shop. Mike has his battery-operated lift, which is very convenient. Hand trucks, push carts, those kind of things are all really useful for reducing the wear and tear on our bodies when we have to lift and move things. When you do lift it, of course, and I love this picture that I found here. When you do lift it, you want to bend at the knees, keep your back straight so that your head, shoulders, and back hips are all in a line. And don't bend over like you see me do all the time. Now, I'm going to be the first one to admit I am terrible when it comes to lifting. And the reason I'm terrible is because, well, I have artificial hips and my knees are shot. 25 years in the Navy, getting dropped out of helicopters, that kind of stuff happens. So the result is that because I know my lifting technique is very poor, I'm very careful about the things that I lift. and I think through the lift maybe more than a lot of people give me credit for when they see me in the videos. So for me, I have some mechanical issues with my body that preclude me from doing this exactly, but I try to get as close as I can. Now let's get back over here. So you want to, after you get that load lifted, you want to keep it close to your body, move slowly and carefully, make sure you can see where you're going and know where you're going to put it down. And this is what they're talking about with the carrying. Do not twist or turn the body. Instead, move your feet to turn. Your hips, shoulders, and toes and knees should all be facing in the same direction. Keep the load as close to you as possible, with elbows close to your side. If you're feeling fatigued, put the load down and rest for a few minutes. Let your muscles recharge. Don't force it if you don't have to. And then, of course, when you're setting it down, you're kind of doing the reverse of the proper way that you picked it up. Try not to drop it, but hey, we're scrappers, so maybe dropping it is a good thing, right? Keep your toes out of the way, and maybe it'll help you start to open that thing up. Oh, man. So let's see, what kind of comments have we had about lifting? Because, this is one of the things that I really enjoy are the comments that you all put in here as we're going through this. HH Recycling, welcome. Andy Pass, welcome. Great to have you all here. Let's see. Getting out of the silver conversation. Let's see. Shark safety is a learning experience. Let people hurt themselves. They will learn pretty quick. Well, the issue with that, though, Richard, is that sometimes you can hurt yourself and do more permanent damage than you would like. And so it's always good to try to prevent the injury in the first place. Yes, it's a learning experience. Yes, we have all hurt ourselves, and we try not to repeat the same mistakes. But it's best if you don't get hurt in the first place. When we were in the Navy, we had a lot of safety training. When I was in industrial settings, we had a lot of safety training. When I was running crews that were loading cars on railroad, loading automobiles on railroad cars, before every shift, we had safety training. You want to avoid the injury if you can. Now, some people, they get careless, they get lazy, they don't take the safety training the way they should, and so they'll get hurt. But the best thing to do is to avoid being hurt if at all possible. HH, yes, I was in the Navy. I was in the Navy for 25 years. I retired as a captain, and I loved it. Well, let me put it this way. It was always my honor. It was not always my pleasure. I'd do it again in a heartbeat if necessary. Mike's Meltdown. 300 pounds, safe up a flight of stairs to people, me on the bottom. If it failed, I'm dead. Yeah. And that's a very important thing. I mean, you don't, I tell you, I had to do a pickup one time on a third floor, and the elevator was broken. And so, now I was by myself, and what I was getting was a large industrial printer. It was heavier than I probably should have been dealing with for the stairs. But, the first intelligent thing I did, maybe the only intelligent thing I did, was I said, all right, I'm going to be on top of this thing. So as I got to the stairwell, I had the dolly in front of me. And so, we went down 1 stairs, 2 stairs. The strap broke, holding the printer to the dolly. And by the time the industrial printer got done bouncing its way down 3 flights of stairs, which was amazing that it made the turns in the first place, I had pieces of printer scattered across 3 floors of stairs. Now, it really helped me out with the scrapping. that, I mean, it was pre-disassembled for me, but I was really glad there was nobody at the bottom of the stairs. Oh man. Um, Ed Weber says, hire young guys to lift heavy stuff. It saves you in the long run. Yeah, that's really important, Ed. And when, if, also as someone who is older on a job site, look out for those younger guys because especially young guys are stupid. And, they think they're invincible. They're going to lift things that they shouldn't be lifting. We more experienced folks have an obligation to try to look out for those younger guys if they'll listen to us, which is always a big ish. Will they listen to us? Yeah, smash fingers for sure, man. That's what's going on here, right there, right there. Smash that one with a heavy load. Not good. Heavy stuff is why they make forklifts. Absolutely. No, sorry, man. You did not sign any of those agreements ahead of time. That's. I'm sorry, bud. You keep hurting yourself. I'm going to keep taking advantage of it. Oh, we have a new name here. Moxie Bashwell, welcome. Great to have you with us. Always nice to have some new names in the house. Okay, and let's see. HH Recycling has got paint on their phone. Yeah, that sucks. And Stalkerman Bob 20 says his brother was working in a butcher shop, moved 100 pounds of meat in a box from the floor and was fine, then went back down to pick up a feather and threw his back out. That is so common for someone to feel fine after a heavy lift, but then the next lift, which may have been really light, is what they thought hurt them, when in fact they had hurt themselves with the heavy lift, but their body didn't react to the damage until they bent down again. But that is a very common thing to have happen. I'm pretty sure we've all been there, because we've all lifted things we probably shouldn't have. I'm just saying, Raffle Scrapper's in the house. Hey, Raffle. Earl Fowler went on the stairs, always used 3 points of contact. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Although I do remember aboard ship during general quarters, sometimes, you got so used to the ladders that you could slide down the ladders without actually touching the rails, which sometimes you had to do that. But that was a whole different thing. Let's see. Richard saying the Corps tossed us in the water, said you got 30 minutes to tread water. It didn't take that long. Let's see. Mike's going to start working on next week's content. All right, man. Let me know what you do to hurt yourself. And Mike's meltdown is saying my back hurting on the light stuff. That's called Tuesday. Oh man, that's a crack up. All right. Well, look, we have had a very good discussion of our safety topic for the week. We need to get on to our industrial metal for the week here. And our industrial metal for the week is aluminum. Aluminum, and here we are on the Trading Economics website again. I really like this website. I've been using this a lot. So aluminum futures were at 26.10 per ton, and when you see TONNE, 99.99% of the time that means metric ton. uh, holding most of the rally since April and sport softer dollar and outlook of the lower supply. So there have been some issues here. We have Guyana Aluminum lost all of its mining leases after the military-led government transferred all mining leases to a newly created state-run company. Well, we've seen this story a lot in the third world countries where a lot of the minerals are mined and found. Um, so that's going to have some pressure on global aluminum, especially for Emirates Global Aluminum that was buying most of their supply from there. There was another aluminum smelter announced that it was closing its plant in Mozambique because of power issues. And I think we all understand that aluminum uses a lot of energy. So when you smelt aluminum ore to get the aluminum, it's very energy intensive. So there's a huge issue there. And then you've got the Chinese output is due to be bound by the country's annual cap of 45 million tons later this year. So what does that mean for us? Well, here we are. We're looking at aluminum. This is the 1 year chart. And in a minute, we'll go to the candlesticks, and each candlestick will be a day. But what you can see is that we had a rough plateau here. When I say a plateau, it wasn't flat, but you can see that we had a lot of variability around this level, this 26 low 26 line. Then we had this big drop. We start to climb out of the drop, and now we're kind of bouncing around another level again as the markets figure out what's going on. This drop, of course, March going into April from what's going to happen with tariffs and what tariffs are doing. We get this drop because of the tariffs, and now we're climbing back up as the tariffs are digested and people being industry is kind of wrapping their heads around what the impacts will be and how they're going to work with it and that kind of stuff. If we go to the candlestick charts, what we can see was here was this really rapid drop, but let's go zoom in on our recent period here. And what we can see is the candlesticks aren't huge. We get some pretty nice pickups, but then they start to fall off again. They'll pick up and fall off again. So just a bunch of variability going on as markets and investors, kind of work through what's going on with the aluminum markets. Nothing terribly concerning here in this later part of this signal here. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's go back here to the line chart. Let's see what the forecast is looking at. And, that's not a bad forecast for us scrappers. This nice gradual climb works for us because we know then that we can put together reasonable loads of aluminum, and our scrapyard should probably not be lowering prices. Prices may stay the same or slowly rise over time. And that's a good thing for us as scrappers to understand. We're not panicked into, I got to get all my aluminum in right away because the prices are dropping. We're not panicked into bringing in a lot of aluminum because of a price spike, and we want to take advantage of that. We're not also, on the other side, we're not saying, I'm going to hold my aluminum and wait for a big spike in prices. Because if this line was going up like this, you'd be tempted to hold on to your aluminum so that you could take advantage of a higher price. If it was dropping, of course, you'd want to sell it before the bottom falls out. But when you have a nice slow rise like this, that's a nice comfortable signal for us. So the bottom line for us in the scrapping world, when it comes to what's going on with the aluminum market, is keep taking your aluminum in. cast sheet, MLCC, whatever your yard, MLC, however your yard is buying the aluminum. Try to separate it so you can get the most for your aluminum. But keep taking it in. It's a great cash flow metal. You keep making good money off of it, and you don't need to worry and make major changes one way or the other with your aluminum. Just keep taking it in. Now, I am keeping a little bit of aluminum off to the side because I'm going to eventually start doing some melt projects here. So I want to keep some of the better aluminum aside for my future melting projects. But I'm also taking in a lot of my aluminum as a cash flow opportunity. All righty. Well, we need to talk about some stocks now. We haven't talked about stocks for a while. This latest edition of the Value Line Investment Survey that I get here, by the way, I am not sponsored by Value Line. I don't get any kind of compensation from them at all. It's what I use when I'm researching my investment decisions. It is a subscription based only, so they take no ad revenue. That means that all of their analysis is straight numbers, the publicly reported data, and their assessment of that data, which is really good because you don't have to worry about a bias in what they're talking about. And there were 3 companies that I looked at this week that caught my attention. All 3 of them are in some way related to the world of communications. And so you might say to yourself, so if I was going to invest, and we're all hearing about the importance of communications and data centers and these kind of things, and so would I want to invest in a stock that is wrapped up in that world? So I thought this would be an interesting discussion. One of the first names that a lot of us are used to seeing is Cisco. We love taking Cisco products apart. They're usually very good quality telecom boards in there, telecom high grade, telecom low grade. There's just a lot of good reasons for us to enjoy scrapping Cisco products. But are they a company that you would enjoy investing in? So right now, their yield is 2.5%, and that's on $67.14 a share. Well, that was as of the 5th of September. For those of you that haven't seen me do this before, I look back 17 years, and I require that a company have increasing cash flow per share, earnings per share, or dividends per share for the last 17 years. I will allow a flat year in the dividends per share, and I will allow a flat or a down year in the cash flow or earnings per share and still be what I call qualified. So Cisco is qualified. You can see that right here. They're a CF1, an E1, and a Div1. What that means is they had this 1 year here where their cash flow per year went down. Their 1 year here where their earnings per year went down. And then here, back in 09 to 10, their dividends were flat. So they are qualified, but are they the right investment? Now, I am a very boring income investor. This interest rate this dividend yield does not excite me at all. Remember earlier how we were talking about how when the interest rates go down and investors say, well, where can I put my money where I would earn more money than just buying silver or gold? Well, at 2.5%, I might as well put it in silver and gold because this isn't even breaking inflation. There's no reason for me to put my money here. But that's not the only reason that people buy stocks. Other people will buy stocks because they expect that the price of the stock will go up so much that when they sell it in the future, they're going to make money. So they're looking for this to go up in the future. But that's not the way I do it. If that's what you're looking at and you're willing to be a little riskier, Cisco might be something to think about. They are definitely a good company We can see that they have managed the company extremely well. So it's not a bad company. It just doesn't fit my investment portfolio. Now, before we go on to the next company, I do want to reiterate that I am not a licensed investment guide, counselor. Um, all I'm doing is sharing with you what I look at when I consider my investments. So I urge you to do your due diligence. And if you are going to do any investing, make sure that you have spoken to a licensed investment counselor and understand what the risks are before you put any money into it. Excuse me. All right. Now, the next company is another one that I think most of you will recognize this name. It is it yes, it's a communications company, but it's not the classic kind of communication company that you might be thinking of. So this is Comcast, and they many of you have Comcast as your internet provider or your cable provider. They're in the providing side. So Cisco was in the making the equipment. Comcast is in the cable and side of the industry. So their ticker is CMCSA. Their yield is 3.9%, which isn't terrible. I prefer it to be 4% or greater, so it's kind of close. And their price isn't too bad either at 34.01. They are qualified in cash flow and dividend, and they're almost qualified on the earnings. They had 2 years, so that disqualifies them. But their cash flow, they only had this one bad year, 19 to 20. And their dividend, they are what I call a div zero. That means they've had zero hits. Every year for the last 17 years, their dividends have gone up, which is really nice. Here, let's look at that graphically. We can see right here, nice, steady upward line there. So the question then becomes, is Comcast, the kind of company that you want to invest in? $34 a share, that's not bad. Now, for me, it doesn't really get my interest a lot because that 3.9%. But it at least it's something for me to look at. And what the folks at the Value Line Investment Group are saying is that they like Comcast as a long-term turnaround play. There is a proposed spinoff that could help unlock shareholder value and remove what's been a conglomerate discount. With the stock trading at low historic multiple, a catalyst in the form of an activist investor could also enter the scene. Yeah, that's nothing for you and I to worry about, unless some of you are richer than I think you are. I am not going to put any money into Comcast. For me, that yield is not high enough. And when I hear language like, a activist investor might get involved in those kind of things, yeah, that's too risky for me. I'm not going to play that game. So that brings us to the third player that I want to bring to your attention. And this is a player that I am actually giving some consideration to putting some money into. That is Verizon. Now, Verizon, it was created by the merger of Bell Atlantic and GTE back in June of 2000. It's a diversified telecom company with a network that covers a population of 298 million and provides service. It acquired MCI. Some of you may remember MCI and Alcatel. And it also happens to be the largest provider of print and online directory information, which I thought was really interesting. But it's here in the U.S. It's a U.S. company. Now, what do I like about Verizon? Well, you can tell I like this because I made it gold, 6.2%. That's a real nice dividend yield. And that's on $44.23, which means it's a low enough price that a lot of us can get into this. There's a lot of us that could buy enough of this stock that it would be worth the game for us. And they're Div 1. So that means that they had this 1 year right here where the dividend stayed flat. It didn't go down, it just stayed flat. All right, so that was 16 to 17. So they're still qualified, real nice dividend. They're not qualified by cash flow or earnings. You can see they've had 8 times that both of those went down. But I really like this, and I really like this. And here, let's take a real quick look at the graphical. So for me, this is definitely in the consideration box. Definitely. And again, I do want to emphasize that I am not a licensed trader, counselor of any sort in financial matters, but this is the way I look at these stocks and what I'm thinking about. And I just thought that because a lot of us, a lot of scrappers are, involved in things that are communication. This is a really interesting opportunity for us to buy into something that's a reasonable price and has a really good yield to consider. Well, everybody, it is time for us to head across the pond. I was not able to set up the redirect, and even if I was, I don't know if it would still work given all of the other problems that I had with bringing this stream to life today. So when I end this stream, I would ask everyone to please, head on over to Scrapping Irish's channel. Just go on YouTube, type in Scrapping Irish if you don't already have them clicked or got the notice from YouTube. You never know who's going to come up on the panel. You kind of know who the regulars are, but sometimes get some new faces up there. We absolutely never know where the conversation is going because it's all based on your questions and your input once we're over in Ireland. So I look forward to seeing all of you across the pond in Ireland. If I don't see you there, have a wonderful week. Stay safe and be careful lifting those loads.